Yeah.
Welcome back. Welcome back. It's your host, Jonathan Beauregard of the podcast, Indestructible Souls, the podcast for mental wellness for African American men and boys. Once again, we're back with an exciting show. I'm going to stay in the vein of relationships because, as we know, relationships is a hot topic. And one of the things about me as a therapist, and I'll get to that in a second, is I like to be able to break down what I see going on and be able to explain the psychology of things so we can better understand the people that we are dealing with. But before I get to that, yet again, my name is Jonathan Beauregard, your host of Indestructible Souls, and also the owner and proprietor of Beauregard Family Therapy Group, located in the city of Colton, in the heart of the Inland Empire. So you can check us out on the website. You can check us out on Facebook, YouTube, and what else is the other one? Instagram. So if you like this show, please go to the YouTube channel, like and subscribe, trying to get the viewership up, the subscribers up, and all that good stuff. So I am the owner and proprietor of Beauregard Therapy. Please go to the website and study and research the therapists on the panel and find a therapist that can meet your needs. So today, I wanted to talk about a very specific aspect of relationships. So as a marriage and family therapist within the last year, I would say that I've been getting more and more couples come into therapy for various reasons, whether it be infidelity, whether it be money, children, whatever it may be. So as a therapist, one of the things that I do is because I want folks to, whatever changes or whatever the problems are, I want the remedy to be sustainable. And oftentimes, what happens is people are in relationships with an individual they thought they knew, in relationships with an individual they thought they understood, and then come to find out they're in a long-term relationship with a stranger. Or that person's representative has left the building and they are now dealing with who that person is at the core and raw. And in fact, they don't like each other and they don't like the person that they're dealing with. So today, I'm going to talk about something very specific that happens in relationships long before they even get started. And so, like I said, I like to talk about the psychology of things. And so I'm going to talk about very specific. Oftentimes people say, why do I keep ending up in these type of relationships? Whether it's, the term is toxic. You hear people talk about narcissism. He's a narcissistic person. She's narcissistic. Sometimes I wish y'all never even learned that term because y'all misuse it so much that I can't even have an opinion without somebody accusing me of being narcissist, right? And so I'm going to break down one of the main things I see in relationships, particularly, well, not only marriages, but long-term relationships and people who can't seem to find their proper match. So here's a phenomenon that happens within relationships. Well, like I said, even before we get to that. When we are searching for a partner, when we are searching for a mate, the reality is, unfortunately, a lot of times people are searching for someone not only to make them happy, but oftentimes it's whatever's wrong with me, I'm looking for someone to fulfill that void, to fill in that void, to make me feel better about myself. I need you to do X, Y, and Z for me. I need you to provide for me. I need you to diminish yourself. I need you to basically deny yourself in order to make me feel better about myself. But here's what we see happen. It happens with both men and women, but today I'm picking on the men. One of the things that we see happen in relationships, and there's a name for it, is that we call it a savior or a hero complex. So you could go look this up. So when we talk about this savior, I'm just going to use the term, this savior complex, and I'm going to break down why this is so important, that you are not going out and finding these men who have this savior complex, because in a nutshell, if you're dealing with a man who has a savior complex and he's dealing with you, that means he needs you to be oppressed and remain in a needy position in order to make him feel better about himself. So what is a savior complex? Basically, it is somebody who feels like they have to be needed and they have to always play the hero in order to basically fulfill themselves and feel better about themselves. But also, that's where they find their value. Some men find their value in lesser women. The problem is too many of you women out there are out there looking for sponsors and somebody to come along and take care of you. So you're coming across as the damsel in distress and wondering why that you're getting into these relationships with these men who at heart are insecure, and I don't want to say weak, but insecure and unsure of themselves, but masquerading as a responsible, solid dude. Because oftentimes they have this savior complex that when they present themselves in the relationship, they're not presenting themselves as who they truly are. And how I explain it to my clients. Men date down, women date up. What do I mean by that? Well, and I'm sure you've heard this. By nature, men have to feel needed. Men, because we are hunters, because we are who we're supposed to be, providers, protectors, and all of those things, we naturally want to be with somebody because we find the value in being able to do that. That's who we are at our core. Women date up in the sense that they have to be with somebody that they respect, that they admire, that they can be proud of and honor. The reality is once those roles are switched, the relationship, because the respect is almost always gone, the relationship is almost doomed from the beginning. Too many people in relationships force it and try to force that person to become something that they're not and wonder why they continue to struggle. And what they do is they leave that relationship and go find the next victim. So let me get back to this men date down, women date up. That is not a sign of weakness. That is not, oh, he's insecure. No, that is who we are by nature. Have you ever heard the term, let a man be a man? Women, if you can't let a man be a man and you want to wear the pants in the family and you want to always be the lead, you want to always be right, then you're going to always be with somebody who has a savior complex. Why do men have this savior complex? Well, there's a number of reasons of why. Oftentimes, and this is always why it's important to check a man's background. One of the reasons, and a lot of these things happen in childhood, early adulthood, adolescent years, is that when we start talking about things that are damaging to the ego, right? Because I don't want to always say trauma, because yes, sometimes we live, a traumatic life, but at the same time, we are ego driven. So when things are damaging to the ego and we are underachievers, we've been criticized, we've been, I don't know if women know this, but for men, we are in constant competition. I'll say it this way. Men who are unsure of themselves are in constant competition. Men who are solid and are well-rounded and don't need validation from outside sources are never in competition. I don't need to compete with the next man to feel good about myself, but I digress. So men who have been criticized, traumatized, and oftentimes have very little self-confidence or self-worth for the thousands of reasons that we can name, oftentimes develop a savior complex, which means I'm going to appear a certain way. That's when we put on the cape. When we, in the streets, we call it Captain Save-A-Ho. That's when I'm going to put on the cape and pretend to be something that I'm not, all to win the affection of a woman. So I have to be your savior. So what type of relationships and what type of women do these men look after or look for? So we'll call it, they go looking for the damsel in distress. Mind you, a woman who's sure of herself, who's confident, who has direction, who's independent, whatever and all that stuff we want to talk about, a lot of times they're not looking for a savior. But the damsel in distress, I hate to say it, a lot of times it's women with children who have a couple of baby daddies, minimal income, struggling to pay bills, ain't got nothing to bring to this proverbial table that we always talking about, right? Looking for a benefactor to come along and rescue them. So these type of men, or men with this complex, they seek women out who are vulnerable, and we'll just call them damsels in distress for various reasons. They need fixing. They need rescuing. They need savior. They need me financially. They need me physically. I'm going to upgrade them because I'm the savior. Here's the problem with this particular setup. When you enter into a relationship with somebody who's the damsel in distress, with somebody who has a savior complex, you are now signing up for a relationship that will always have to be unequal, that will always have to be unbalanced. Why? Because if I have a savior complex and you show any signs of confidence, independence, self-reliance, any movement forward or any improvement forward, any progress forward without me, men with savior complexes have to tear you down, have to keep you down in order for you to remain in a position of 2 or 3 steps below. Because my ego counts on it. So a lot of times when these women particularly are entering into these relationships, I'll say it like this. I see couples getting so far ahead in relationships and not realizing that they have a person who has this so-called savior complex and that they have succumbed to it, that they now find themselves in a relationship with a person that is ill-equipped, to have the type of relationship that they long for. And when I say the type of relationship, I'm talking about two functional adults, two emotionally sound adults that have the fortitude, have a plan, have a strategy to build a family, to build wealth, to raise kids, so forth and so on. All because we are attracted to the hero, right? We forget that Superman was really Clark Kent. We forget that the Hulk, David Banner, I think he was a transient. So these superheroes all have vulnerable spots. So here's the thing. When we talk about this savior complex and why people find themselves in these situations, it's because, I'll say it this way, and this is what I believe, and you can challenge me later. Because a lot of us enter into relationships selfishly. We're not looking to add to somebody. We're not looking to enhance somebody. We're not looking to build together. The reason why women ignore red flags is because they're hoping if they ignore the red flag, this relationship still benefits them. If they were truly trying to be in a relationship with a person, they would allow that person to heal on their own and then maybe double back. But we're going to ignore the red flag because my hopes and dreams is that if you turn into the man that I hope you be, you still now benefit me. That's a selfish move. And I'll say it this way, we're all selfish in relationships. But when we have this specific dynamic of this savior, damsel in distress type dynamic, the reality is I can afford for you to grow. I can afford for you to get better. Meaning, husband, boyfriend, baby daddy, whatever it may be, I can't let you be confident. I can't let you take off your cape. I can't let you understand that you have strength, self-esteem, confidence, resiliency, self-will without me. So I got to tear you down because I have to make sure you keep your cape on. All the while, a woman who maybe want to go back to school, who has a business plan, who can earn her own money, who can think for herself, I have to then tear you down because I need you to be the damsel in distress. Otherwise, I have no value in this relationship. So you have to ask yourself, and this is why I often tell people, before you enter into a relationship, is you have to work on yourself, but not only work on yourself, you have to make sure that you're solid, because even if you get in a relationship with somebody you believe you love, if their love depletes you, then you're in the wrong relationship. So let me go over real quick to let you know, because I always like to give information. If you're in a relationship with somebody with a savior complex, and also you might be in a relationship with a person who's needy and need to be less than to make you feel better, but also the problem is that means they'll never grow, because if they never grow, you can't grow, and they're going to prevent you from outgrowing them. Here's a footnote. Have you ever been in a relationship where you're trying to progress financially, emotionally, whatever it may be, and you're getting better, and then that person does something to pull you back. Here's the reason why people do that. One reason why they do that is because there's a fear of being left behind. If he or she gets better, I know damn well they're going to leave me. They're going to leave me behind. The other reason why people will do that and pull you back is because your progress is a reflection of me staying stagnant, of me failing, of me not growing. So therefore, I can't let you outpace me. So I would rather we both be miserable, because that means we get to stay together, rather than you growing, which signifies you outgrowing me and possibly leaving me and leaving me behind. So let me give you a few attributes or a few characteristics of a person who might have a savior complex. One of the things is they are not happy unless they're in a position of doing something for somebody else, because that's where they find their validation. And in fact, they have a hunger and a thirst for validation. Oftentimes they neglect themselves. They have a difficulty accepting help, and they have to be in control. Emotionally, they're drained. And here's the thing, they mask their low self-esteem. And the only time they feel good about themselves is when they are in a position to rescue and you're in a position to praise them. They have a strong fear of abandonment or rejection. They avert conflict and have a strong need to be needed. Here's the other thing. So a lot of times people may look at this person on the outside and think, oh, they're a good person. Oh, they're helpful. Oh, they're so resourceful. But the reality is that eventually they're going to burn out emotionally. And here's the other thing, women. While this savior is doing all this stuff for you, the resentments is constantly mounting. They become resentful. And you begin to see these tantrums when they feel unappreciated. The other problem is your relationship is built on this. So anytime any one of you are trying to break away from being the damsel, or you're trying to break away from being the hero, it's going to put a strain on the relationship. Here's a big one. When we talk about the lack of autonomy, neither one of you are being true to yourself. In fact, a lot of times the person who is the hero have lost a sense of themselves. They don't know who they are. And at some point, they lose their sense of compassion. Here's the thing. There are women out there who are looking for heroes, but the problem is they're running into fragile men who are masquerading as heroes. What's the difference between, and here's one big difference, and I need you to take this to the bank with you. Some men with savior complex, they may appear like an alpha male. I know we've been hearing that term a lot, this alpha male thing. The reality is a true alpha don't need to announce that they're an alpha. What's understood don't have to be explained. But the reality is, men with the savior complex, they masquerade as an alpha, when in reality, they're insecure and they have this innate need to be needed. Anytime that doesn't take place, they fall apart. So, so what's the difference between a true alpha or a responsible partner versus somebody with a savior complex? And it's and we could take this in many different directions, but I'm gonna put it in a nutshell for you. A true person or true alpha or responsible adult, a responsible partner, the reality is their happiness does not lie with you. Period. A person who's a responsible partner, their happiness, who they are, the principles they stand on, how they operate as a man, has zero to do with you. The reality is, it's your job to yet again partner up with that and enhance it. It is not your job to change it. The problem is a responsible partner in reality don't need you. The person with the savior complex not only needs you, they need you to be the damsel in distress in order for them to continue to masquerade as the savior. Let me say this. Women, stop searching for a hero and instead find a partner that you can link up with and you guys can build your kingdom together. Men, if this is you, I suggest you get some therapy. I suggest you find a mentor. I suggest you get with a group of men, elder, same age, whatever it may be, and learn the principles of what manhood and self-reliance is supposed to really look like. There was a day and age where we used to have a rites of passage, or we used to do things that would catapult us into manhood. And we have these experiences. So I'll tell a story. I'll tell on myself. Before I got married, or I should say met my wife, I was wondering, why in the hell do I keep attracting these type of women? And I'm not going to say what type of women because I don't want to offend nobody, but it was these women who were looking for sponsors, looking for whatever it may be. Now, mind you, some of y'all may know out of high school, I was a football this, went to college, and this is even after college, and so forth. But I kept wondering, why do I keep finding these women that got their hands out? As Robin Harris said, their hands look like cups. You know, they got these badass kids and whatever, and all this stuff. And I'm like, something ain't right. And I can't, it can't be baby daddy or surrogate baby daddy written on my forehead. Like, what the hell is going on? But I wanted to blame the women. And through my journey, I realized it wasn't the women, it was me. And the reality was I was seeking these women out. Here's the crazy thing. I never seriously dated a college woman. Yet I'm a college graduate. Think about that. I never dated a college woman. What I realized is I was attracting a specific type of woman Because even though I had all these accomplishments, so to speak, I still didn't feel good about myself. So therefore, it was a requirement that I go find a woman who was less than or who needed something, and then I could masquerade as if I could provide it in order to gain her affection. It wasn't until I changed that I began to attract different type of women and ultimately found my wife. Men, if you find yourself always having to play the savior, ask yourself why. Women, if you're always looking for your Superman and always have to be in the role of the damsel of distress, then you have work to do too. Yet again, my name is Jonathan Beauregard. This has been Indestructible Souls, the podcast for mental wellness for the Black male, African American men and boys. Don't forget, go to YouTube and subscribe to the channel. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and www.beauregardtherapy.com. Yet again, my name is Jonathan Beauregard. I'm out. Peace.
Yeah.